Hi, it's Camilla here, and welcome to the Healthier You podcast brought to you by My Local Health, where we believe that together we can create a movement towards better health for you, for your family, and ultimately for the community. This podcast is designed to help you learn more about health and be inspired by some amazing people living and working close to you. Today I'm talking to Kerri Speyers, a life empowerment coach and owner of Life Choices Coaching. Kerri specializes in helping midlife women gain the clarity, confidence, and courage to live their best lives. Today I'll be covering the important topic of emotional intelligence, what it is, the importance of it, and how to develop it. Because believe it or not, it's something we all need to have, but many of us lack. So thank you so much for joining me here today, Kerri.
Thank you for having me. It's always lovely to spend time with you.
Pleasure. So I'm so excited to hear about emotional intelligence today because I'm a stickler for learning and growing. And I really think that if we all developed a deeper understanding of emotional intelligence, we can really do anything and deal with anything.
Absolutely, absolutely. I actually believe that it's a skill set that every man, woman and child should have. And I did a TED talk a couple of years ago in regards to that. It was called Emotional Intelligence Determines Destiny, because the level of emotional intelligence or the lack of emotional intelligence will determine how far you will rise or not rise in a society. And even now with people who are becoming highly successful and they've got all the degrees and they've got all the knowledge, they will only get this far, and their emotional intelligence will actually tip them into the really, really high echelons of jobs. The emotional intelligence is a critically important factor in succeeding in life.
Yeah, it's so true. And something that we're not taught about this. We are in a way, but we're not. They're not teaching this at school.
No. Well, they're starting, some schools are, and that's the great thing is there are some really progressive schools that are starting to do it. However, that's not every school and that's not every child. And what I would like to see is that every parent has the emotional intelligence skill set, because it is a skill set that can be learned, to actually then pass it on to their children and then pass it on to their grandchildren. So even if we may have missed it ourselves and didn't have that understanding, we still have grandchildren, we still have other people in our community. We all need to have the skill set of emotional intelligence, which is basically, emotional intelligence is actually being able to identify an emotion, to express an emotion, to understand an emotion, and then to be able to manage that emotion. So we need to have self-awareness, we need to have self-management, we need to have social awareness, social management, and we need to have empathy. So those are the 5 things that we need to have in order to have emotional intelligence. Now, obviously that encompasses a pile of different areas as well, like critical thinking and crucial conversations and confidence, and a whole pile of things that go with it as well. But the core of it is basically emotions, understanding emotions so that you can actually use them. Our job is to know ourselves so well that we understand ourselves, that we know how to manage ourselves. Because if we can't manage ourselves, we can't manage anyone else.
No.
We can't be a leader in a huge corporation with 100 people under you, or 200 or 1,000 people under you. You can't manage yourself. You can't manage anybody else.
No.
So if you don't understand your emotions and understand how they drive your behaviour, you actually can't help anybody else either.
So, definitely. Yeah, that's really, really true. And tell me a little bit about how you came to be that amazing, strong, kind woman that you are today, and you are really glowing, and I really want to know how you got to this point.
Okay, thank you. So I did not have emotional intelligence, so this was not the start of my journey, and we all don't know what we don't know. So knowledge is power, and I didn't have emotional intelligence. My parents didn't have emotional intelligence. They couldn't have taught me that. They would love to, but they didn't have that skill set. So when you don't have that, you can't pass it on. If you grow up in a family where your parents don't understand emotions, or are in actual fact frightened of emotions, which is what a lot of them are, when you are frightened of emotion, you actually do not allow your children to express that emotion. So therefore we start having suppressed emotion. And when we have an emotion, it's like blowing up a balloon. We fill the balloon up and then we try and shove it underwater.
Yeah.
And if you've ever tried to do that, it doesn't work very well.
No.
It actually keeps wanting to pop up, and it keeps wanting to pop up in unexpected places at unexpected times. We need to learn to identify that emotion, to express that emotion, to understand that emotion, and to then be able to manage that. And that is the job of a parent when a child is very, very little is to help that child understand that emotion and express it and regulate that emotion. So I didn't have that skill set, and I was very good at suppressing a lot of my emotions, and I didn't understand why people do what they do. So that whole skill set of emotional intelligence just wasn't there. And so for a long period of time, I was at the wind with whatever was going, and then had, you know, some people that came into my life that really weren't serving me, and I didn't understand that. I didn't understand what I was feeling. I didn't trust that gut instinct. And so I started on a journey where I just started sucking up psychology to work out what on earth was going on in my life. And I now give my clients what I wished I had have had. The knowledge and the understanding that I was so lacking means that I've taken massive amounts of information and sucked that up, and I now understand that. So those deep and meaningful conversations that we never had are the conversations I so love having now. And to me, it's about understanding who we are, knowing ourselves so well that we can help others. So,
yeah, definitely.
So it's always a journey.
Yes, absolutely. And we're always learning and continuing to learn and understanding more about our emotions. And when you're talking about the children and teaching your children, it's a lot of the times I find with a lot of people and kids is that the emotion that comes out is anger. So they are angry, but that's not really what it is that they're feeling, but that's the only emotion that they can sort of express. And then, so how would you suggest that we try and talk to them? What questions do I ask my kids when they are angry to get to that? What is it really that is bothering you?
Absolutely. So this is giving the child the opportunity to express that emotion. There are no good emotions. There are no bad emotions. They're just emotions. And most of us know about 7 or so emotions, you know, anger, sadness, fear, and guilt, or whatever. We know a couple of them. There are thousands of emotions. So when a child says they're angry, when we don't have much emotional intelligence, we can only express it very limited. But when we can say, I'm feeling angry, and actually understand, actually, I'm frustrated. I'm feeling walked over. I'm feeling unvalidated. I'm feeling. So we need to first get down to that child. So we're not looking down on a child being intimidating. We need to soften our voice. We need to slow down. They are struggling with something, and it's our opportunity to say, help me to understand what is going on for you. Please explain to me what's going on. You're angry. Why are you feeling angry? I'm feeling angry because that child was really mean to me. So how are you feeling? It's not just anger. It's actually, I'm feeling like that person walked over. I'm feeling irritated. I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling unvalidated, whatever it is. So you're actually helping that child to express not just anger, but to express what they are actually feeling, which may be frustration or something else. Then once they've identified that, we are allowed to have that emotion. We just don't need to live there for the rest of our life. We just need to express it. Now we need to understand it. So what's it telling you? So if you're feeling frustrated, why are you feeling frustrated? Because you asked that child to do something, and that child didn't do it. Did you think that maybe it came from, did you not, could we have said it a bit different? Do we need to set some better boundaries? Often when there's anger, it's because we actually haven't set good boundaries. So any emotion is actually telling us something. And if you're feeling really angry, there's a good chance that someone has stepped over a boundary. But if you haven't set a boundary, then the person is stepping over something they're unaware of. So it's a lesson to learn. Okay, so maybe we need to speak to that little boy or whoever it is that's upsetting you and tell them that you actually don't like that. So it's helping them to process why they are feeling what they are feeling. Not good, not bad, just I need to understand. Help me to understand, because then we can actually start formulating a plan so that you don't get into this position again and again and again.
Yeah, and it's bottling up and building up, like you were talking.
That balloon again.
Yeah, exactly. And how would you suggest, many times I feel if my child or my partner gets really angry, then I get angry too, but really I'm not angry, but it's just, it's transferred to you.
Absolutely.
So how do you suggest, to try and stay calm in situations where you really want to be really angry?
Yes, okay. Now we go down the slippery slope.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, we are all responsible for the energy we bring into a space. So when someone comes into a room, if they're coming in angry, they are already bringing a negative energy into that space. So we need to be aware of that. We don't want to rise to the same emotion as them. But what we also have is we can get triggered. So when somebody says something to you, quite often we feel this intense emotion coming on. So now's your job to regulate you. because you can't control the other person,
No.
but you can regulate you. Why am I feeling so angry? So often when we are feeling like we're being used or we're being rejected or whatever that actual emotion is, not just the anger, but the actual determination of that proper emotion, we will often find it is because it is bringing up a previous time that we have felt that.
Yeah.
So we feel rejected now, but the pain is generally coming from that rejection when we were 5, when we were 6, when we were 2, when we were whatever, and we didn't have the capacity to understand that emotion. So we're thinking, oh, gee, you got really angry about this little thing I did. No, that's 20 years of anger that I had about that that I haven't actually processed.
Yeah.
So I believe now, knowing what I know now, and I didn't know that then, is I believe that we all carry triggers, and our job is actually to understand those triggers, to go and actually get some counselling and some coaching where we unpack why we do what we do, and we actually start working on those triggers. Our job is to actually get to the point where we are no longer triggered by things. So when somebody comes in and they express something and we fire up, we need to have dealt with that emotion, dealt with that past stuff, so that you're touching a healed wound, not an open, sore, festering wound.
Yeah. That's right. And do you recommend, if you do have a past then emotion that you're dealing with, do you recommend that you go, if it's related to a person, you recommend that you go to that person?
No,
so you don't have to.
No, not at all. And in fact, often it is really quite not necessary.
Yeah.
It is actually what I often do is I do a lot of timeline therapy. We actually go back, because the reason we hold on to an emotion is because we haven't learned the lesson we needed to learn. Because there is always something we could have learned. Oh, I didn't know how to set a good boundary, therefore that person walked all over me. And so we don't know what we don't know.
No.
So with timeline therapy, we're going back and we're actually tapping into a lot of that inner child. For whatever time frame. Okay, so what would have helped? What did you need from that person at the time? What did you need? And up here, most people don't know the answer.
No.
But when we create a safe space and we give it time, our subconscious starts actually bringing up the answers, because I don't know the answers to how to heal you, but I know how to ask the right questions and create the safe space, because deep down inside you actually do know the answers. You've just stopped listening to yourself and you're actually not accessing that area. Stuff will come up, and I've had clients bring up some stuff that just like, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but this is what I'm feeling to say. And that has unlocked massive amounts of emotional pain, and they no longer have to hold on to that emotional pain, because they know now. Oh, I just know I need to set a better boundary. So they've learned the lesson. Once you've learnt the lesson, you don't need to hold on to the pain. The pain is there to say, careful, careful, careful.
Yeah.
Once you know why and you have the understanding of it. So 99% of the time, you don't need to go back and see someone about it.
No.
What we need to do is we need to clear that so that it's not an open sore wound that's hurting you.
Yeah.
It's, we understand that when we have a wound on our body, that we, if you've done some damage, we dig all the bitumen out, we dig out whatever it is that's the problem. We start caring for that, we look after it, we heal it, and then once it's healed, you can touch it 20 million times and it'll never hurt. Emotional pain is exactly the same.
Yeah.
If you do not heal that emotional pain, every time you touch it, that person will be sensitive and they will jump through their skin. And that's what happens when you say something to someone and they just freak out and you're like, what happened there? Because they have emotional pain they haven't dealt with. This is where our addictions come from. This is emotional pain they don't know how to process.
Yeah.
So let me just go off and go into another little fairy wheel where I don't have to think about things.
Yeah. And I love that you're saying that you don't have to go and speak to the person about it, because I think many times we are blaming other people for our own emotions, and really, like you said before, it's my emotion.
Absolutely.
It's not your fault or anyone's fault why I feel the way I feel.
Yes.
You can hurt my feelings by saying something, but it's not your fault that I'm feeling the way I'm feeling.
Absolutely.
And I think we are blaming each other too much, and especially in relationships with your close family, with your parents or your partner or your kids, that blaming thing, you made me feel like this, and really they didn't, but it's maybe they need to know, but really you also have to deal with that emotion yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And whatever you feel is whatever you feel, and I've been around environments where it's like, you don't feel that. It's like, no one has a right to tell you what you feel is what you feel.
Yeah.
Now, it may be exaggerated. It may be too intense. It may need some work done on it. But what you feel is what you feel. No one has the right to validate you. You shouldn't be feeling angry. Well, if you're feeling angry for a reason.
Yeah.
Now let's process. So, yes, you are responsible for that. What they might be responsible for is you need to be responsible to set a boundary that says, this is actually totally unacceptable for me and it makes me feel terrible. Please don't do that again. And if they choose to continue to do that again, then that is having a negative effect. Then you have to start thinking, okay, does this person care enough, to care for me in a way that I know I need to care? When we don't understand ourselves, how can we set a firm boundary when we don't even know what that is? That's me.
Yeah.
I had no idea how to set a boundary.
No.
Chronic people pleaser. Yes, I'll do everything for you.
Yeah.
And then wondering why I was feeling frustrated.
Definitely. Yeah. So it's really about working on yourself, definitely.
Always.
Yeah.
Always on ourselves.
So what would you recommend for someone to develop that emotional intelligence? What do we do? What resources do we access to understand more and learn a bit more about yourself?
Well, that's the space that I actually work in. So if someone's got some issues happening, then definitely I do one-on-one coaching with people. And what I am doing is regularly doing gaining emotional intelligence workshops where we just spend 5 weeks and we actually just hone in and do a little mini deep dive into understanding what those emotions are. And of course we can unpack that to a greater degree, but it's helping us to process those emotions. And it's understanding I've got an emotion, there's nothing wrong with an emotion. What is it there to tell me? And quite often with my one-on-one clients, when they're feeling really triggered by something, or there's a belief kicking in there, we'll go back and look at that and go, okay, so why are you feeling the intensity of this emotion? Let's identify what that emotion is. Let's express it. Let's understand it. And then we will be able to control it. Once you understand it, the control bit's really easy. Because so it's about self-awareness, and so it is a skill set that we can learn. And there are courses out there. But if you've got something that's happening, I actually believe everyone should go and actually deal with. Well, one of the things I love to do is clearing negative influences, because our parents are amazing people. They do a fantastic job. They give us incredible things, but they actually imprint us. Incredibly so. And so there will be some amazing things they've given us, but there will also be some things that are not serving us, and that they have affected our value system and our belief system, and they are driving some of those behaviours. And if that behaviour is working for you, keep doing it. When it's not, that's a time to say, why is this not serving me? Every behaviour we do is because it is serving us in some level. It may be serving us resourcefully, or it may be serving us unresourcefully. And if you're finding it's kicking into unresourcefully, this is not working for me, then let's unpack that. So it is about understanding ourselves. Our biggest job in this whole world is to have so much self-awareness that we understand ourselves. I can't tell you how I want to be treated as a friend if I don't know what that is. And once I know that, I can say, look, you were really quite late the other day. That really matters to me. It makes me feel unrespected, whatever it is. If I don't understand me, I can't set the boundaries. Boundaries, people think boundaries are, I'm getting told what to do. In actual fact, it is because you want the relationship to survive. You actually want to preserve the relationship. That is why you're saying, maybe I've put up with that before, but actually I really don't like it. It makes me feel sick in the stomach when you do that. Please don't do that. So it is preserving. But if we don't understand ourselves and know what's going on in here, how can we express to someone else what our needs are if we don't know them ourselves? So it's self-awareness is really what it all is.
No, that's really good. And when is your next how often do you run these workshops?
So every couple of months, and I do them for 5 weeks. And I have a sort of private interactive course where we kind of all deep dive in for a little bit and work books and stuff. So my next one is on the 20th of September. I just have them online and we just run through some things. But I also do retreats, and I do one-on-one, and I do some self-care workshops as well where we deep dive into different subjects and we just get a little bit more understanding so we know ourselves a bit better.
Definitely. Yeah, it's so important, and it's something that I had really no idea about. I mean, we know that we have emotions, but emotional intelligence and it's so important. We should all have it, and we should all do it. Definitely.
Absolutely. One of the most important skill sets that we have in this world is to have emotional intelligence, I believe.
No, it's really important. So if people want to get in contact with you, what's the best way? How do you prefer them to contact you?
Yes. So on my website is lifechoicescoach.com. lifechoices101.com.
Yeah.
So you can get me through there. And I'm also on Facebook under Kerri Speyers, Life
Yeah.
Choices Coaching, or Kerri Speyers on Instagram.
Yeah.
And obviously through my local health.
Of course, yes. No, very good. Well, this has been really, really good. And I look forward to talking to you again more about this and just delving into more in depth about certain emotions.
Thank you very much.
Very, very, very good. Thank you so much, Kerri.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Very, very good. Well, it's been really, really good to have you, and thank you everyone for listening to the Healthier You podcast. I've been speaking to Kerri from Life Choices Coaching on emotional intelligence, and in particular what it is and why it's important for us all to gain it and develop emotional intelligence. It's been a real pleasure to speak to Kerri today, and I look forward to sharing more inspiring stories with you all in our next podcast. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.